Welcome to the Veriscope analysis of the state of Florida versus Charlie Adelson this evening. This is part two. We covered the beginning of the cross-examination of his trial in part one. So if you haven't seen that, please go back and see that. We'll be playing the actual trial testimony, and then we're going to be examining the forensic linguistics to see what we find. I'll be stopping the video at various points in time and analyzing what he's said. And if you're new to the trial, this is Charlie. He was a dentist and he's been convicted of the murder of Dan Markell. And this is his ex-wife, Wendi Adelson, who many people believe was involved in the plot with her family to have Dan Markell murdered so that she could spend more time closer to home in Florida. So we're going to be looking at the statement analysis and to see whether or not there are indications that that is true or not. In the meantime, the trial channel is an excellent channel to visit. They've very kindly given us permission to use some of the actual trial transcript. And the great thing about the trial channel is it's edited. So an awful lot of those parts which slow the whole thing down have been removed whilst keeping that raw trial footage experience. So do go and check them out if you have the opportunity. So let's carry on with the actual trial itself. We're going to start where we left off just before, and then we'll begin the analysis.
So I want to go back to Wendi. Wendi is in the process of relocating from Tallahassee to South Florida, basically the day that this is going on, the day after the money drop, right?
They're packing up the car, they're coming back.
Right. So she's going to be moving significantly closer to the killers that had threatened her life.
This what I don't she wasn't planning it wasn't a permanent move or anything that was planned. I think she took a suitcase with her.
Okay, so for those who have been following the Veriscope channel, you'll immediately notice the stuttering, the cognitive overload, and so we would begin to put in the deceptive markers. Let's have a quick look at the actual analysis itself. So I'll go through some of these before we continue with the transcript and see how many you can pick up. The prosecutor says, so I want to go back to Wendi. Wendi is in the process of relocating, etc. He says, this was, I don't. She wasn't planning it wasn't a permanent move or anything that was planned. I think she took a suitcase with her. So we can immediately see how the cognitive overload has caused fractures in his thinking. He's got lots of false starts in one response, this. I don't. So we call this sensitive when we see this repetition of the language. The brain literally, physically, cannot formulate the lie very quickly. And this is the highest level of linguistic stress in the transcript. And it's straight away. She wasn't planning so here we have an example of self-censorship. The sentence dies mid-construction. The brain knows the truth, but he's desperate to prevent the completion of what could possibly be a statement that's going to land him deeper in it. And so we have that brain leakage in combination with self-censoring, in combination with sensitivity, and this sort of pattern, which immediately tells us that we're looking at deception. By the way, deception in a statement or paragraph doesn't necessarily mean that it's a lie, but we would put in the flags, and after a while we'll have clusters and superclusters, and we would begin to think, this statement looks deceptive to me.
But she's your family member, yes. She's much closer to the one they've already killed than you, right?
Say it again.
She's much closer. She's got much deeper connection.
Okay, so when somebody questions the question or repeats the question or mirrors the question or mirrors an answer to your question, they are sometimes buying cognitive time to think through the answer. And in truth, generally speaking, we don't see that pattern. It could be the case that he didn't hear, but I suspect he could. He effectively wants more time to think. So we recognize that pattern. In goes the deceptive marker, and already, we've been going a minute, and we can already start to see a complete deception pattern.
To the person they've already killed. That's Dan Markell. Then you do.
Right.
I mean, there's a reason to fear for her safety because these killers have come, they've just killed Dan, and now they're saying they're going to kill another one. It could be Wendi, right?
She has no idea what's going on.
Exactly. But you let her.
Oops. So by default, then does that mean that you do? So, all right. And what about Wendi? So he says, no, I never told her what happened, but they lived in a very secure building. This is slightly later on in the transcript. So by saying I never told her what happened, and the prosecutor asked about cameras, Charlie volunteers that he never told Wendi what happened. This reveals there is something to tell. There's a sort of denial before the accusation. So along with these I stutters, and whenever we see this pattern, we know the brain is struggling. Let's carry on with the transcript.
You from Tallahassee to Miami where you knew the killers were located. That's my point. Do you agree with that?
The killers were able to find Dan Markell in Tallahassee. They have a car.
They were, but would you rather live in Tallahassee or in Miami if the killers are in Miami?
I think if these people want to find you, they'll find you. Okay. I mean, I don't think. I mean, looking at Luis Rivera, I don't think a distance would stop him.
Okay. Where did Wendi and the boys live when she first moved to South Florida?
When she first moved to South Florida, she moved in with my parents into a small apartment. They actually had to get another apartment because that one was too small.
With your parents?
She moved in with them, yeah.
And I want to talk about the cameras. You bought cameras for the Adelson Institute and your home at Whale Harbor, right?
Yes.
The camera system? Yeah. All right. And what about Wendy's? I guess she didn't have a place. So, like, wherever she was staying with your parents, were cameras installed there as well at that same time frame that you installed these cameras?
No, I never told her what happened, but they lived in a very secure building.
Isn't it true, Doctor, that you'd been planning to install those cameras for some time before?
Do you see the deception problem there? I never told her what happened. So by default, it means that he knows what happened.
For the murder?
I actually already had cameras at my...
Or does it mean that he doesn't have to tell her what happened because she's fully aware?
House that I had installed in 2008. The technology from 2008 to 2014 had changed a lot when it came to cameras.
I think you mentioned that. I'm sorry to interrupt you, but I think you mentioned all that on direct. I'm referring to this particular update that was done post-homicide. You were in communication with this camera guy, and I think your lawyer mentioned this. You had 84 text messages with him dating back to January 20th of 2014 in regards to the update that occurred post-murder. Do you agree with that?
I know there was always talk that we were going to get cameras.
So do you notice the pattern? We have the cognitive overload, the stutter, the repetition, the sensitivity. Now we do have to bear in mind establishing a baseline, and it is traumatic being on trial for your life, a murder trial. However, he's experienced at this now, and the patterns we're seeing are truly cognitive overload, which occurs more often with deception because the brain has to manage the truth, and it knows all that it knows. It has to manage the lie, the fabrication. It has to manage what your reaction is. It has to manage all the lies that you've told in the past. The amount of compute available inside the human mind is finite. And so in fabrication, the brain requires so much more energy and cognitive load that we start to see these fractures in the linguistics. And it's a unique pattern that occurs when someone is being deceptive and is lying to you. So if you know what to look for, you can almost measure this to the degree that you can hear it because you recognize the pattern. Incidentally, the membership of Veriscope is now open. There are 2 tiers, and I've released some of the training into the first tier that wasn't available there before, just so that you can see the level of depth that we're going to be going into if statement analysis is something that you're interested in learning more about.
Office, and we just never got around to it. When this happened, that week, within probably 3 days, I called the camera guy up and I said, I want to get cameras in my house and my new cameras for my house, and I want to get cameras in my office. How soon can you come out and do it? And then he came out, I'd say 4 or 5 days after that, bought the equipment and installed it that week.
Did you hire a private investigator to help you with this whole problem you were having?
With the extortion?
Yes.
No, I didn't tell anybody.
Did you get a bodyguard?
No, I carried a gun on me, and I always sleep with a gun next to me in bed, and I carried a gun on my person and had a gun in my car at all times.
Do you recall a statement you made on the Dolce Vita recording that said you were going to start carrying a gun?
Yeah, because for a long time, after this happened, I was carrying a gun, and it's uncomfortable, and I don't always like carrying a gun, so I hadn't carried a gun in a while, and I was going to start carrying one again.
But you did say in 2016, I'm going to start carrying one.
Yeah, I carried probably for about 4 to 6 months after this happened, and I wear scrubs, so the gun that I had can kind of stick out, and it's.
You see, this is a major problem, really, isn't it? If you're a dentist and you're wearing scrubs and you're drilling people's teeth, you don't really want the gun sticking out the side of you or digging into your ribs as you bend over the chair, do you? Really, that's the problem.
Comfortable. I prefer not to carry a gun.
So you quit carrying it, but during the time you were still paying the extortion money?
Yes.
All right, and the extortion money that you were paying, $3,000 a month, that wasn't going towards the principal of whatever was left on the $333,000, right? Didn't you testify to that?
Correct.
All right, so you never came up with the remaining bulk of the money that you owed?
Never.
And nobody ever came after you for that?
No, they said you could pay it all off and it'll be done, or just pay.
This is the special dentist hitman repayment plan, which we heard about in video 1, which is the most ludicrous thing that I've ever heard in a trial. But I guess, times are hard and hitmen have to offer deals these days.
You were paid $3,000 a month, so I thought about paying the full amount.
All right, then a couple weeks later, after the initial extortion, you and Catherine Magdanoa broke up, according to your direct. Do I have that right?
That's not correct.
When did you break up?
Within a week. I met her, we went out to dinner, we went out to eat, and I just said, this has got to end.
All right, so you broke up with her.
Yes.
Weren't you scared that if you broke up with her, that she would sick the Latin Kings on you?
No, because I had every intention of paying every month. When I broke up with her and I said, listen, I don't want to surround myself with this, I'm scared, she said that she was going to come every month and pick up the money and protect me.
So to be more accurate, we have the extortionist payment plan, which of course the extortionists don't exist. Who was paid were the hitmen. By the way, Charlie has been found guilty of murder and has been sentenced to life without the possibility of parole. So we know he paid the hitmen. We know his mother was involved in the plan to kill Dan Markell. We suspect, looking at her forensics, and if you haven't seen the police interview on the day of the murder, which we've done the Veriscope analysis of, please go back and look for that on the Veriscope channel, because in my view, and we've analysed that police interview in detail, she shows extreme deception, and in my view, she shows knowledge of the plan. And in my view, when she calls Donna, who has also been convicted and sentenced to life without parole, I believe that she's using code on that phone call. So check out those videos, because I think they're extremely revealing.
And she understood. I mean, our relationship was on the rocks.
But you testified that all the gifts and stuff that you gave her were to keep her happy, right?
Yeah, when I realized that she's the one who's protecting me and she wasn't a part of this extortion, I had no problem keeping her happy, and I looked for things to do, nice things to do for her, because she was broke.
But not worried about pissing her off by breaking up with her.
Well, our relationship was definitely on the rocks. After July 1st, when Sigfredo cut me off and threatened me and called my dad, and then she knew I didn't even invite her to my dad's birthday party, which was a family gathering with family friends.
Well, if you don't even invite the extortionist to your dad's birthday party, what is coming to the world? Anyway, let's carry on with some of the actual analysis itself. So, thirdly, we have avoidance through repetition. We have stalling tactics. The prosecutor, she's much closer. She got much deeper connections to the person that they've already killed. That's Dan Markell, and you do right. And then boom, look at the self-censorship. Say it again. And then later, she, so here we have sensitivity, has no idea what's going on. That say it again stalling, which we covered. The repetition of the she being extreme sensitivity. It's that stutter under stress, and we've seen it in two responses, with Wendi being the most sensitive topic. He always begins entering cognitive overload as soon as Wendi is discussed. Deflection instead of denial. Notice that there's no reliable denial. We have deflection techniques instead. The killers were able to find Dan Markell in Tallahassee. They have a car. This is talking about, wouldn't you, why would you move close to the killers? So we have deflection patterns. We have a need to convince throughout the testimony. If the killers are in Miami, I think, if these people want to find you, they'll find you. I mean, I don't think, I mean. Can you see how we have here the extreme sensitivity? I think, I don't think, I don't think, I mean, I don't think, I mean. And in between, we have some communication. So this is what we would note as extreme sensitivity in the transcript, and in would go the deceptive flags. Let's go back to the actual trial. Don't forget the trial channel, excellent channel, my favorite.
July 5th, she knew we were going to be done.
After you broke up with Captain Magdanoa a week after the murder, did you continue to talk to her?
We still communicated, for sure.
Talk on the phone?
And texted, yeah.
And meet up?
No, the only time I would see her was, I saw her again the end of August. She came and picked up the money, and that's when she asked me if I could put her on the books, because none of this money was going to her, and she needed to get health insurance for her kids. So I said, yeah, I'll do it and help you out.
And did you continue to hook up with her after the breakup? And by that,
oh, well, that's very kind, isn't it? To put the extortionist on the books and help her out and make love to her and all sorts.
And, have sex with her.
There was one occasion. There was one time that we hooked up.
Okay, when was that?
I want to say it was probably about 5 months after we broke it up.
Okay, well, there was one other occasion before that in October of 2014. Do you recall that? October 9th of 2014?
That's probably the occasion I'm talking about. It's July When they count the months, July, August, September, October. So okay, so 4 months. It's
Okay, and
been
then there's
10
another
years.
one on October 15th. You remember that one?
No, I think I think
No,
we did hook up
don't
about one
remember that
time.
one.
Okay, well, one time on October 9th and one time on October 15th.
I thought it was
No,
one time. If
no,
it was
don't
2
remember
times,
that
it's been
Could
10
it have
years.
been 2 times?
But no more.
So on the third attempt, he says, no, don't remember that one. No, don't remember that one. But could it have been? Okay, but no more than those two. It's ridiculous. The guy can't even lie with and keep the lie going. He collapses under any pressure.
And on August 25th, 14, that would have been after the breakup, right?
Yeah.
You text her, and then she replies, I don't need help, I'm good. Don't need favors, nor will I trust anyone again. Erase my number, please. Go on with your life like you did already and have been doing. Sorry we spoke today. I don't want to stress your life more. Don't do anything for me. Do you remember receiving that text from Catherine Magbanua?
Yeah, sounds familiar.
And that's a pretty weird.
Notice the minimization there. I mean, that was a strong text, wasn't it? With real emotion. And what do we get? Yeah, sounds familiar.
Text to get from the extortionist. You're meeting her to give her money. Why is she saying erase my number?
She's not the extortionist.
On
In
9/11,
in 2014, I didn't think she was the extortionist.
right, but it's been revealed that she was.
In 2019, so you're taking what was known in 2019, and you're trying to say I knew what I knew in
I'm
19.
not trying to say you knew. I'm trying to say she knew. She knew she was the extortionist. Why is she telling you to erase her number and leave her alone?
Because I broke up with her.
Exactly. On 9/11 of 14, she sends you hashtag bestie for life. Do you remember that?
It sounds familiar.
So did you all?
So here we have the sounds familiar pattern when, yes, it's true, but doesn't fit his narrative. And so he can't bring himself to say yes. The best he can do, because it's not directly lying, is it, is by saying it sounds familiar. He can't agree because his narrative is destroyed. And he can't lie. So he's stuck in the middle. And so we see this, it sounds familiar pattern. So we recognize this as a technique of deception. It's quite common. You'll probably be able to see it and spot it in your own lives once you recognize it as a technique whenever someone is deceiving you. And we put in the deceptive flags. So let's see where we are. We saw the camera sensitivity, which we've already covered in the different locations. We saw whenever we see unnecessary language, because there's a rule or a principle in statement analysis and forensic linguistics that we like to see the economy of the word. So when that rule is broken and we see unnecessary language, and in this case unnecessary technical details, we put in a deceptive marker. Look at this pattern. I. We always recognize this. Sometimes we'll even see I. Yeah, and I've even seen 6. It's where the brain literally is, sometimes it's deciding what narrative am I going to do. And here we have a comparison type of word. So whenever we see I actually, this is also another unique pattern, which normally means that there is deception followed. So here we see I actually already had cameras at my house that I had installed in 2008. And then on goes the explanations. The gun carrying inconsistency. I love that. I love the way that the gun was sticking out of his scrubs as you're getting a filling. Never paid in bulk. Okay, let's go back to the actual analysis. Actual transcript itself. Sorry.
Markel, I said I was going to pay $350,000, and when she asked me, "Do you have that much money?" and I said, "Yeah, I could pay it in cash." So she took it as I had cash, and she knew I had a ton of cash in my safe. So she thought I had the cash. I didn't have all that cash. So that's where I'm assuming they got the $350,000 from.
But the offer that she bragged about was
that's a
$1 million offer, isn't that?
So notice the amount of times that he said cash. Confusion and not really understanding what the other person is saying because they're all over the place and it is confusing. That in itself is a deceptive marker overall. So whenever you feel, I'm getting confused here, that's often because you're listening to a deceptive pattern. It's not you, it's you're hearing deception, and deception is very often confusing, just as a principle.
Right, that she ran her mouth about.
I was never there when she spoke to her friend.
Okay, was it $1 million offer?
The offer was that $1 million was going to be paid, and I was going to pay $350,000.
And weren't you going to cover Wendy's third as well?
No, not at all. I was going to cover my third.
Didn't your lawyer say in opening statement that you were going to cover the whole thing, or Wendy's third?
No, I was sitting here. I heard what he said. Charlie was going to pay $350,000.
All right. And so the offer was $1 million offer, and that's what you told Katie, along with the fact that you were going to cover the third.
I was telling her that I was going to pay $350,000, yeah. And then one day, if my sister was able to, she was going to pay me back.
And then you didn't have the amount of money that was being...
She was never going to pay you a penny.
Right?
No, I only had what I had.
All right. And at that point, the blackmailer, Catherine Magdanoa, negotiates some type of layaway plan for you to complete the extortion with the Latin kings?
Okay. Katie wasn't the blackmailer, and Katie wasn't the one who was extorting me.
Didn't you just tell this jury that Katie was the blackmailer? You realized it in 2019.
I had thought that when you were just talking, you were talking about 2014. You were talking about that night, okay. So that night happened in 2014.
Okay.
I love the way she calls him doctor.
Know now, because you have revealed the puzzle piece. She's a blackmailer. Can we agree on that?
I believe, sitting here in 2023,
yes,
that she was in on the extortion for sure.
Yes. So is it okay if I refer to her as a blackmailer?
I think there's a difference between blackmail and extortion, but yeah, okay. Sitting here today, we can. Sure.
We'll refer to her as an extortionist. So this woman, the extortionist, is going to do you a solid by negotiating with the Latin kings for you to get on a payment plan for the extortion. Isn't that what happened?
What you're doing is you're taking what we know in 2003 and trying to say, this is what I knew in 2014.
Did she put you on a payment plan?
Yes, she said, because I didn't have the money, she said, asked me if I could pay $3,000 a month in 2014, and I said, yes, I can.
Did you hear any of the conversation where she was making these negotiations on your behalf?
No, when she said, I'm going to go check with my friend and if that's okay with him, she took her purse, took her keys, took her cell phone, she walked out of my front door, closed the door behind her, and I sat in my living room, and she came back about 5 minutes later.
You didn't want to talk to the guy yourself?
No, I didn't even think of that. But she went outside to call him.
All right, and then the two of you took a Xanax and went to sleep.
Well, I took a Xanax. I don't know if she took one out of the bottle, but I definitely did.
And the next morning, she left with your money, right?
She left about 8:30 the next morning.
That's July 19th, 2014?
Correct.
Let's talk about what you did that day. You did not report this to the police because you were in fear, correct?
Absolutely.
And you didn't report this to Wendi, even though, according to you, her life was in danger too.
So we would note the singular answer absolutely. It's very often used in deception because it's not entirely confirmed. The person can just take your question and say absolutely. It doesn't put them under any pressure. The brain doesn't like to lie. So when we hear absolutely, we need to establish, is this on their baseline truthful, or are they using phrases like absolutely deceptively?
Correct?
Potentially, but I planned on paying the extortion every month.
All right. But you did go to the gym that morning, right? Can we show that text, please? Were you able to go to the gym the next morning?
I absolutely didn't leave the house. I worked it out at Nova Southeastern Gym, and you can check the gym records. I was never there.
Okay. Did you say you were going to the gym?
I said I was, yeah.
But you didn't actually go?
No, I didn't leave the house.
All right. So would you agree, Doctor, and we'll refresh your memory with them if we can, that the text messages that were exchanged between yourself and Catherine McVanimal on the morning after this exchange of money were inconsistent with your extortion theory?
They were inconsistent with how I was feeling.
They don't appear to look like you just gave her $138,000 under duress, do they?
She told me the last thing she said to me before she left the house is, can we just pretend like this never even happened? So when I sent her that message, I was trying to show her, like, I'm trying to forget all about it.
Yeah, you were just demonstrating to her that you would agree to pretend nothing happened, right?
Absolutely, that's what she asked me to do, and that's what I tried to do. She understood. I mean, our relationship was on the rocks.
But you testified that all the gifts and stuff that you gave her were to keep her happy, right?
Yeah, when I realized that she's the one who's protecting me and she wasn't a part of this extortion, I had no problem keeping her happy, and I looked for nice things to do for her because she was broke.
But not worried about pissing her off by breaking up with her.
Well, our relationship was definitely on the rocks. After July 1st, when Sigfredo cut me off and threatened me and called my dad, and then she knew I didn't even invite her to my dad's birthday party, which was a family gathering with family friends on July 5th. She knew we were pretty much
to her. Remember that?
Yeah, I cared a lot about Katie, and I didn't think that she was a part of this. So I was always trying to keep her happy and make her happy, and I felt like she got dragged into something that she shouldn't have been dragged into.
Okay, maybe, but she dragged you into it as well.
I didn't see it like that at all. And our relationship actually got stronger. Initially when I got extorted, I had limited contact with her and I was cold to her. And then over time, I realized that she's the one who's protecting me and she's not involved with these people because the extortion never went up and Katie was always broke. So
she was involved with them because she had a child with the guy, right?
I didn't know for sure it was him, but
you suspected always.
So we've gone back and forth a little bit to really understand how confusion, lying, fabrication in his own mind, his brain must be spinning. Can you see how it's very difficult for him to keep the fabrication going? As soon as he's under any pressure at all, he backs down. So here, another example of backing down with whose child is it? He's trying to make us think he doesn't know, and he's put under some pressure, and he immediately gives in.
That it was him.
I always suspected that Sigfredo was behind this.
So wouldn't you want to distance yourself from this woman who, were you ever really that serious about her to begin with?
We spent 7-8 months together.
But you were never considering marrying her.
No, I wasn't considering that.
You were a playboy, right? You had a zillion girlfriends.
That is actually not even true.
Okay, did you?
So again, we have the comparison. Did you notice the actually came in there?
A lot of girlfriends.
I had 2 girlfriends in the 2 or 3 years after her. I've dated Whitney Kick for 9 months.
Okay, but how many women were you talking to and engaging with sexually? A lot more than Whitney Kick, right?
There could have been one or two.
Or more?
No.
Okay.
There could have been one or two.
Point being, you were not going to marry Catherine Magbanua.
I wasn't having marriage plans, no.
Okay. And you have now broken up with her after this incident.
Yes.
She's the person that's taking the money from you physically.
She's the one. I looked at it as she's the one who's protecting me. If she wasn't, I was going to get a visit
Is
from
she
somebody.
the one that was physically taking the money?
Yes.
Is she the one that was connected to the person you suspected to have killed your brother-in-law?
I thought she was tied to that person, yes.
And she's the one that got you into this, right? Because she ran her mouth, right?
And I looked at that I ran my mouth too. And if I never said anything to her, this would never have happened. So I felt responsible for saying something to her in the first place.
But you didn't.
Wow. Wow. Okay, so the breakup. When did you break up? Within a week, I met her. We went out to dinner and went out to eat. I just said this has got to end. Some selective responsibility. We have the relationship contradiction. The marriage question. And then finally we move on to the abandonment of Katie.
Feel responsible enough to try to do anything about her sitting in jail, an innocent woman, for 3 years. Did you?
She never contacted me.
You didn't offer to testify in her trial. You let her get convicted and get life in prison, didn't you?
I thought the truth was going to come out.
But not through you.
I was never contacted. I thought it was going to come out through her.
Was there any contact between your lawyers and her lawyers?
You'd have to ask them.
You said you didn't have any contact with her. Did you have any contact?
I had zero contact with her.
So your lawyers didn't tell you anything on behalf of her lawyers?
Absolutely not.
And her lawyers didn't hear anything from your lawyers?
I don't.
So again, we have the absolutely not pattern.
Know what lawyers talk about, but I can tell you that I never talked to Katie, and I never told my lawyers.
You never relayed a message through your lawyer?
And there did you notice there we had a VUM, a complete self-censorship shut off. He wasn't prepared to finish the sentence. Deception indicated. There's communication going on.
That the Adelson family would not be talking in this case.
And absolutely not.
And she had nothing to worry about as far as that ends.
Again, absolutely not. So we're seeing this pattern repeated, absolutely not, in deception areas of the statement.
Was concerned.
That's not true at all.
Did you or your agent contact?
Okay, so he weakened the statement, that's not true, with the at all at the end. So which parts of it are true?
Her brother to offer to assist with her attorney's fees in her case?
That's a complete lie.
Okay. So, the lawyer communication, lots of double negatives, lots of article violations. We've got catastrophic linguistic breakdown, huge amounts of fracture and sensitivity. We often have denial before accusation. We've got deflection patterns throughout. The gun carrying contradictions. Never paid the bulk extortion money. We've got selective responsibility with the running of the mouth. Lots of blue flags where we have reasons why. Extreme stuttering, incomplete thoughts, lots of missing pronouns as well as lack of commitment. And this pattern here. Sometimes the articles a and the, they change where they shouldn't change. Strangely enough, we've been going through a lesson on these articles just today in chapter 2 inside the membership, if that's of interest. Lots of deflection, change of language, cameras became the camera system. We always look for a change in language. A change in language can mean a change in emotion, a change in psychology. So we always note that. A car might become a vehicle, for instance, after it's broken down, or a gun might become a weapon after it's been fired. So a change in language can mean there's been a change in use, change in psychology, change in thinking. And then we ask ourselves why. So we always look for this. Some more passive language. I was never contacted. I think the question from memory might have included the word ever. So we put less emphasis on this never being deceptive if that was the case. If not, never is almost always deceptive, just as a general rule. The repetition and the sensitivity of the she's, remember that? Okay, and we also saw clusters, but what's really interesting was Wendi, whenever she's mentioned, we saw an increase in sensitivity. Katie's abandonment, etc. Okay, we've gone back and forward a little bit, but that does bring us to the end of today's analysis. Do put in the comments all of the deceptive markers which we might have missed in part 1 and here in part 2 where we've covered part 1 again slightly because it got cut off last time. And I look forward to speak to you in the comments. If you haven't already subscribed, please do. Hit the notification bell because we're going to be releasing videos most days. Consider joining either the lower tier of the membership, which is essentially buy me a coffee, where we're putting some of the higher tier videos now, just so that people can get a feel for what learning the detail of forensic linguistics is like. And if you are committed to learning and want to join the Berescope formal training in a more educational format rather than just demonstration, do consider joining the higher tier of membership as well. Okay, look forward to speak to you in the comments.